The sea otter's scientific name is Endangered. It is an endangered species and grows to be about 4 feet long and weighs 65 pounds. It can survive up to 23 years in the wild. Some close relatives are the badger, ferret, and mink. The species has undergone a decline of over 50% in the past 45 years. Following the end of the commercial fur trade in 1911, the worldwide population decreased to approximately only 2,000 sea otters. Because of all of these factors, sea otters are considered endangered. Otters are spread throughout the world, on land and in water. They live along the coast of the Pacific Ocean in North America and Asia. Specifically, southern sea otters live in California, along the coast of Half Moon Bay south to Santa Barbara, while northern sea otters live on Alaska's Aleutian and Pribilof Islands, the Alaska Peninsula, the Commander Islands of the Bering Sea, the coast of the southeastern Kamchatka Peninsula, the Kuril Islands in Russia, and on the northern coast of Japan. Translocated populations live in San Nicolas Islands, the coast of British Columbia in Canada, and Washington and Oregon. Otters overall inhabit the shores, sea bottoms, coastal wetlands, and shallow waters, but they prefer confined areas like bays and inlets. Sea otters are consumers and omnivores, eating urchins, abalone, mussels, clams, crabs, snails, and more than 40 other marine species that are often invertebrates. They eat their meals mostly in the water, on their backs with the food on their chest. They put a rock on their chest and smash the abalone onto it to break the shell. For this, they use flat rocks and break open various crustaceans and mollusk shells as well. Sea otters are endothermic and eat around 25% of their body weight per day to maintain their high metabolism and to keep warm. They are homeothermic and their high metabolic rate and air bubbles in their dense fur maintains body temperature. However, if their fur gets wet, their ability to keep their body temperature stable is compromised.
Sea otters are predators who fulfill a vital role in their ecosystem. Sea otters can influence the carbon cycle by helping preserve kelp forests that sequester carbon dioxide. They eat urchins, which decimate those underwater kelp forests if not kept in check. These kelp forests protect coastlines from storm surges and absorb harmful carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. For their varying importance, sea otters are considered a keystone species. The process of reproduction begins with the male courting the female otter. When courting, the male tends to swim face down, swimming faster than normal to impress the females. When encountered by a female, the male tries to embrace her or shift her body. If the female is interested, a period of rolling around and playing goes on. During mating, the male grips his teeth onto the female's nose and also wraps his forelegs around the female's chest to hang on to her. Mating only takes 15 to 30 minutes. Pregnancy lasts for 4 to 12 months. Sea otters give birth in the water and very rarely on land. After birth, the female watches her cub and grooms the pup's hair on her chest for the first few hours. Female sea otters, on average, have one pup. Occasionally, the female may give birth to twins, but will only take care of one of the pups and the other usually dies.
Sea otters are endangered for many reasons such as shark attacks and habitat degradation. However, human activities have caused the biggest impact like oil spills. When oil touches an otter, the fur mats and leads to hypothermia. Ingested oil can also cause organ failure. Fishermen hunt sea otters using net traps because they're viewed as a threat, since sea otters also eat shellfish that fishermen try to catch. Hunters have also killed sea otters for their fur until it was banned in 1910. For example, in the 1820s, the Russian Aleuts built Fort Ross on the coast north of San Francisco, hunting sea otters to the point where they were almost near extinction. Other forts used for fur trading are Fort Edmonton and Fort Dunvegan. These species are prone to endangerment because of their high metabolism. Otters need a large amount of food to survive and keep warm, and they can only have 1 to 2 pups per litter. They have no blubber, only have dense fur to keep warm, but if the fur gets dirty, sea otters have a hard time absorbing oxygen and breathing. The species has evolved over time. Originally, it's thought that sea otters only lived on land, but adapted to survive in water. Sea otters were thought to be well adapted to both land and water because of their small size and anatomy of their body. Scientists say they most likely hunted in the water during the day and then came back to their den in the night. They develop webbed feet along with their individual toes. Other adaptations include lung capacity, flippers, and ease to give birth in water. With their evolved lungs, they could dive into the water more easily than hunt on the surface. Scientists are unsure how sea otters will change in the future.
Otters have 2 layers of fur. The underlayer is dense and short, while the outside layer is long and waterproof. This keeps the underlayer of fur dry, therefore the skin is kept dry as well. They have sensitive paws with retractable claws used to clean themselves, to catch prey, and to use tools. They have webbed hind feet and long fighting tails, which help them to steer and add propulsion in the water. Unlike other mammals, otters have blunt teeth used to crush food. Because heat conductivity in water is faster than in air, water loses heat fast, so aquatic animals also lose body heat fast. As a result, otters have adapted to have a higher metabolic rate to generate more heat. Sea otters have sebaceous gland secretions of squalene, which are normally found only in minor concentrations in other mammals. This creates a barrier between the water and skin and acts as a substitute for subcutaneous insulating fat, as otters only have 1 centimeter of it. Otters have adapted to its cold aquatic environment by constantly grooming themselves to retain their fur's insulation and waterproof qualities. This also traps air bubbles, which also aids in insulation. While underwater, otters can close their nostrils and ears. Otters hold their feet out of the water while floating to reduce heat loss and absorb the sun's heat. Otters usually swim belly up, but in certain situations they can swim faster by swimming belly down. By rippling its body and using its webbed feet, an otter can have greater propulsion and acceleration. Otters rest in clumps of kelp and water to prevent themselves from drifting off. Otters eat prey that have shells, so they have adapted by placing a rock on their stomach and repeatedly bashing the shell against a rock until the insides are revealed.
Sea otters are a keystone species, so if they go extinct, the effects will be very dramatic. Sea otters eat a diverse amount of sea life like sea urchins, fish, crabs, and clams. If there are no otters, the urchin population will grow and destroy habitats around them. This destroys the sites where fish mate, causing fish populations to drop. Sea otters play a big role in keeping ecosystems balanced, and population numbers would change dramatically if they go extinct. We think that this species will eventually not be endangered anymore because many things are being done to protect them. The species will continue to be endangered for several decades, but after that, the species will hopefully grow in numbers and not have to worry about extinction anymore. There has been a dramatic increase in the genetic variations of sea otters in new populations, and this is due to fur trade. Otters have lost half their historical genetic diversity, but since they are getting lots of help, their population will soon increase in the future. Selective pressures they face are environmental because they are being hunted by humans, and pollution is destroying their homes, including oil spills and acid rain. In 1911, the U.S., Russia, Japan, and Great Britain made a treaty called the International Fur Seal Treaty that banned the hunting of sea otters. They are also protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972, which states that it's illegal to hunt any marine mammal in U.S. waters. Humans have reintroduced sea otters to historical habitats to repopulate them in places like Alaska, British Canada, and Washington. They also put sea otters in parks so people can observe them and learn more about them. The parks also keep them fed and safe from predators.
Yeah. You are my fire, the one desire.